Tell you what, it's a pretty bloody good morning when you get to wake up next to that there. Someone asked me a little while ago how I find all my campsites that I go to along the Murray River. I thought I'll show you how I do that. You see, all the way along where we live here, just outside of Kahuna, and you can get this pretty much from Swan Hill to Echuca, then either side of all the big towns as well, there are tracks leading to the river everywhere. Some of them are like posted on maps and stuff, but there's a heap that aren't. When I came in yesterday, I haven't actually been to this campsite here before. It's pretty bloody good. I can see down the Murray River there all the way to the west and all the way to the east here. It's actually quite a good bit of river frontage here. I'm on a nice bend. New South Wales is just on the other side there. And when I came in yesterday, I was having a look on an app that I'm now using, and it's pretty damn good. I did have a, you may remember, those who watch this channel regularly, from the Melbourne four-wheel drive show, I bought a Heema 2 Plus GPS. And I watched a lot of videos about the Heema 2s. Couldn't find anything about the Heema 2 Plus. A lot of the reviews about the Heema devices, that they're slow, they lock up, they're not that accurate. For on-road, they just pass. And I thought, well, I'll just give it a go myself. And I did. And I found all that to be accurate for the Heema 2 Plus as well. For on-road navigation, I found it to be absolutely pointless. Most of us have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in the car. And looking at Google Maps compared to what Heema was doing was just ridiculous. It was miles away. It just wasn't good for on-road. For off-road, I actually found it to be reasonably good. The reason I don't have it anymore is because of the cloud system that they have. So you could plot out different trips and stuff online with the Heema cloud, synchronize that to your device, and then take that trip, and all of that homework that you've done would be on the device. And I found that to be very appealing. But somehow they lost access to that cloud. Heema did. I think they have maybe a third party doing the hosting for that online service. And something happened with it and it's been down. And I think it's still, even at the time of recording this video, it's still down. I contacted Heema and said, look, this is just not fit for purpose anymore. And they offered immediately, oh, look, there's a refund here. And I sent it back and they gave me a full refund. What actually happened with it was the device kept on asking for an update. I took it into my Wi-Fi, I did an update, and it basically locked it up. Well, did it lock it up? It kind of locked it up. You had to be connected to Wi-Fi every time that I turned it on then. There was something with the cloud, with the hosting, that screwed it up. I had to, every time I powered the device on, so imagine this, it's in your car, it's mounted up, you turn the ignition on, you need to log into the GPS every single time that you use it. And that just sucks. No one wants to do that. That's not a good experience. Look, there's old mate Emu over here. Or if you can see him, he's just right there. It's probably 40 metres away. On the way in here yesterday, I'll tell you what, the coat of arms is all up and down this river. Emus and kangaroos. I actually, an emu yesterday, I hit one with the vehicle. I was driving down a pretty decent sized track. He was off to the side and he come running towards the vehicle, which reminded me of something. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I was almost at a stop. I was doing maybe 10 kilometres an hour, maybe. And because I saw him coming, I just like stopped or went to stop. He missed the car, but he actually ran into this just here, like the stone guard. So he didn't get hurt. A few feathers flew up and off he ran. He was fine. But every time I come out here, there's kangaroos and emus. He's not even too bothered by me at the moment. He's probably, can you see him over there or not? Right there at the end of I'm pointing at him out there. You might be able to see him. If you can't, trust me, there's an emu right there. Anyway, I remember at Pucka one time I was instructing on a DNS course, a driving and servicing course, basically teaching people to drive armoured fighting vehicles. And we're at Pucka, and there's a lot of emus at Pucka. And I remember going through all this. It was like saltbush maybe. It wasn't very high. It was probably about just over a metre high, this stuff. And we were flying through it in the vehicle, and I'm in the turret talking to the driver, and we were about to bust out of this salt bush. I think it was salt bush. It wasn't. It was just shrubs. It wasn't very high. And about 10 metres, 20 metres in front of us, and we were probably doing about 20 or 30 k's an hour, an emu went running out in front of us, as in running away from us. Thought nothing of it. They're big enough. They're generally pretty bloody quick. But it had a heap of little chicks behind it, or in front of it, and it stood on one, and it tripped one up. And that bloody emu, the mother or the father or whatever the case is, I don't know about emus, that sucker turned around and ran at us. And we're in an M113, what was it, 11.54 tonne. How's that? That's like 20 years ago, I still remember that. It's amazing how you remember that sort of shit. 11.54 tonne. And that sucker turned around and ran at us. And I'm on the ICS, the internal communication on the vehicle. I'm telling the driver to bloody stop, because this thing, it was bizarre. Like, this emu was running at us to protect its little chick from a friggin' armoured vehicle. Crazy stuff. I digress, and I do that a bit, sorry. So, yeah, the Heema, the guy that I called, he basically said it's down. There's no idea as to when in the future it's going to be fixed. He offered the refund. I took it, and it was as simple as that. Therein after that, they actually sent me a express post satchel, and I sent it back, and within a week I had money back in my account. So then I had to find another solution, and the solution that I found isn't exactly off the shelf. I looked and looked and looked, and I decided that I'm not going to go and buy a single device. I couldn't justify the Garmin one. It looks impressive, it probably works really well, but I just couldn't justify that. What I did was, I did a lot of research around different apps. I watched a lot of YouTube videos about different apps. One that came up a few times was the Heema app, and Heema had just put me off with the whole cloud thing. I ended up looking at Explore Oz app, and I already had an iPad, an 11-inch iPad. So I've gone, well, I'm going to use the iPad, because I always bring it with me anyway, up in the rooftop tent. So when I go to sleep at night, up in there, there's a plastic sleeve that I put the iPad in, and I watch a movie before I go to bed while I'm in bed. So I'm already bringing that device, and if I can, multi-purpose that device, even better. So I did. I got the Explore Oz Explore Oz Traveller app, I think it's called. They also, and the reason I got this one is that you can put it on any device, but I've got it on the iPad. I can plan all my routes and tracks, trips and stuff on the desktop at home if I want to. I can do it on the iPad as well. And I save all those for myself. There's also a heap of community trips and stuff that there's thousands of these trips that you can go and take, like plot them into your GPS and take it. I also use that in conjunction with NewTracks. I've always been using NewTracks. I like NewTracks because it tells me the difficulty of the different tracks that are around, whereas, as best I can figure, Explore Oz doesn't, but it will get you to where you want it to. The thing that I wanted to know was, if I say I want to go to this location here, in my head I go, I've got this spot that I go to regularly, I want to go here. Well, maybe not that, but maybe you want to go to a place in the high country, for example. You can set a point of interest there and navigate to that. And it will actually give you turn-by-turn navigation on the bush tracks, which is great. That's fantastic for that. So it doesn't get rid of the paper maps. You always should use paper maps, because technology at some point in the day will always bite you in the arse. So you should always have both and know how to use both. The iPad that I have isn't a GPS iPad, and I've had it for a few years, so it's not like I had to go out and buy something new. I think this will work on most tablets. But because the iPad that I have doesn't have GPS, I had to get a GPS unit itself. Let's grab this for you and show you. And then I had to get some RAM mounts and stuff. So the RAM mount is here. The GPS unit, where is that? Down here. Just unplug that. That's the GPS unit. It's a Garmin one. It just comes in this rubber case here. That's the GPS unit itself. So I just power that from the vehicle. It's got a battery in there as well. But I power that with basically through your cigarette lighter. and this will Bluetooth to your iPad, and then this will act as the GPS for your iPad for the iPads that don't have GPS. And the RAM mount sits there, the quad lock for the iPhone sits next to it. It all plugs in reasonably well. It's a little bit of a mess with cables and stuff, but it does what I need it to do. And the way that I use this app to find locations, to camp at I mean, is it shows you all of these little side tracks and stuff that are around the place that aren't necessary, or they're certainly not on paper maps, on any of the ones that I know of here. And they certainly weren't on some of the Heema tracks as well. I've come out here with the Heema and come down tracks that weren't on the Heema map. And I've come down on the Heema device, but I've come down here with the same, on the same track, and found that it is in these. And you wonder, why is that important? It's because tracks don't just go friggin' nowhere. There's a reason there's a track there. And along the Murray here, almost always it's to a campsite. Someone has got over the years, they've gone, this is a great campsite. This one here is actually on a loop road that goes around, but there's little tracks that come off it all the way around that on this app. So at the moment, what I'm doing is, as I've had it now for a few weeks, and I've just come out here and just head down these tracks that I didn't know were there, and I find campsites at all of these different places. So the people who have asked me about finding campsites all along the Murray River here, this app has been quite good for that. It cost, what did it cost? So you buy the app's like $39 or $59, one of those two. Then all of the maps to download is the other one. So one was $39, one was $59, something like that. And you had to get a membership, an annual membership. So you do pay annually for the updated stuff and all the points of interest that people log on and make them public. All the tracks that people make, or treks, I should say, that people create and make them public. All of those things are updated every year. So the yearly, or the annual subscription, I think is like $39. And realistically, for $39 to get all that stuff given to you is pretty good, especially if you're planning trips. You may remember a while ago when I did a trip up to Queensland, I really struggled to find places to camp. And this app will help me do that. It will help me find free camp places. It'll help me find bush tracks in places that I don't know, so I can work out where to camp, and I can plan it before I actually get there. Whereas before I just couldn't work out a way to do that. So I'm happy with the setup that I've got there. It's got it on a RAM mount and stuff, and it works pretty well. There was different ways to mount it in the vehicle, the iPad. It's an 11-inch iPad, so it's a fairly good size one. You can definitely get smaller ones, and if your eyes were pretty good for nice close-up stuff, that might for looking at detail in things. So I wear glasses to read, but not to drive. So you're in a bit of a catch-22 there. So the bigger iPad suits me fine. You know what I'm saying there. Tell you what, a lot of people, me included, complain on our channels a bit about the amount of rubbish and shit that people leave out, and like general rubbish, beer bottle lids, shit tickets, all that sort of stuff. People are, not everybody, there's a small group of people who do this, and I'd hate to see their freaking houses. But this actually has been pretty bloody clean where I've pulled up here, especially after a long weekend. What does my head in that little bit, like we sit here talking about state parks, national parks. Where I am right now is actually a national park. And there is Patterson's curse, like freaking everywhere. And it's a noxious weed. Like, what the hell? We sit here worrying about rubbish, as we should. But the amount of Patterson's curse that's out here, I don't know if you can see, or pretty much everything that you can see out here is Patterson's curse. Everything that you can see out here, or as far as the eye can see all this greenery that's right here behind me on the ground, this shrubbery, all that's Patterson's curse. Way out, as far as the eye can see, is Patterson's curse. So you got to think about, in my head I think about the grubs that leave their rubbish around. But what about managing this? Like, you go to the high country and look at how much blackberry bush is up there, another weed, and it's freaking everywhere. Like, you on one hand you go, people aren't looking after the bush. Well, the people who are meant to be looking after the bush aren't doing a much better job. Like, Sure, you could certainly blame people coming out here for spreading a bit of the weed, but Patterson's curse is through the bush here, and it's been through the bush here for a bloody long time. And no one seems to be getting on top of it. Interesting, eh?